Welcome to Let Go of the Pen podcast. We're the Melindas from Hoosier Hills Recovery,
Ministry of Hope Baptist Church in Dillsboro, Indiana. Remember, it's all about letting go of the pen and letting God write your story.
Today, we welcome on the podcast Jessica Ogden.
Hello.
She's a recovery support specialist at Ripley County Court Services.
Mm-hmm.
I personally can't say enough about you.
Me either.
And enough good about you, I should say. And what an influence that you have over the community with the people that you work with. It's wow. Me included. I really enjoyed getting to know you. And I've seen the love and giving of yourself. The ladies that we come in contact with tell of your kindness, your compassion, and your determination to help them.
Mm.
And I thought that was awesome. We got that some of those today. And so, Jess, tell us your story.
Well, first off, I want to say thank you guys. I'm so excited to be here. I'm honored that you guys even asked me, that I even have anything, worth talking about. But so I appreciate it.
Sorry, honor.
Yes.
I like to start my story even before I was born because, we talk about that generational trauma. And I never knew anything about that until I started doing this job and learning about the different things and the trainings and things like that. Like, it didn't start with me. I had it all piled up against me even before I was even born. And, when you're born, you just kind of inherit all that with you. My mom, she had a brother. He died. He was drunk, hit a telephone pole, and he passed away. A year later, her parents driving to Greensburg to play bingo, a drunk driver hit them and they passed away. She was 17. No family. She got pregnant with me when she was 18. So by that time, it was just her, and then I came in the world and it was just, I made everything better. God took away her family and gave her me, is how she looked at it. And it was horrible watching her deal with that grief and that trauma that she still carried with her. Was devastating to me. But now that I even know more about it, it's even more devastating, My parents divorced when I was younger. I really don't remember a lot about it. I do remember having to go into the courtroom, same courthouse where I work, different judge, I'm sure, but go up those stairs and I had to go in there and tell the judge who I'd rather live with.
Oh, wow.
And I had to make that decision. I don't even remember how old I was. I'm old enough to remember.
Yeah. Wow.
So I chose my dad up here. My mom lived in Florida. She had a husband and my other brothers, she had a family. My dad was up here and had no one. So I felt sorry and guilty. And so I picked to stay with my dad. Well, that of course broke my mom's heart, devastated her,
Oh, yeah.
So then when my dad had custody of me, I just remember crying for my mom all the time, crying every single night. And his answer was, here, take these pills.
Oh.
And they were Tylenol PMs. Do I think that he should have given those to me at that age? Probably not. But right there was the introduction of, you feel any kind of way, here's these pills.
Wow.
It's going to fix you.
Yeah.
So I've carried that with me. And obviously it meant something because I still talk about it today. But I do think back to that, like, that's probably where it all started. Where you get that thought. Yeah.
You sleep.
Yep. I stopped thinking about my mom,
Everything went
away. So then eventually it got so bad that he was finally like, you can go live with your mom. And I did that because I just was devastated without her. She was my best friend. I mean, we did everything together. I had two younger brothers. My mom ended up remarrying after my dad. I have two younger brothers. He was an alcoholic, the dad, or my stepdad. It was the first time I'd ever seen any type of violence where a man was hurting a woman. I remember him choking her. And I remember that being like the first time I felt like, wow, that's really not cool. That's not right. And I was scared. I remember being scared.
But not having an answer.
I just knew it was wrong. And I knew that she was hurting and I couldn't fix it. I always wanted to be the fixer and try to fix everything, So I grow up with my mom in Florida. I go to high school in Florida. My brothers go to school in Florida. We had a normal life. My mom had a job. By this time, she's remarried again. to my stepdad, who ended up raising us for most of our lives. He was a great man. He took us in like we were his own, treated us like we were his own. And that's who we knew as dad. You know, my dad would call every once in a while from up here. I would barely ever hear from him, you know, and that was just the way it was. So my mom's working and all of that. I think she's about 39 or 40 at this time. And she just goes into some kind of like midlife crisis. I don't know what it was, but she ended up going to the doctor and getting put on Xanax. And I'm sure everybody knows what those are. If not, it's like a benzodiazepine. It's like a nerve pill. People get, you know, you get prescribed for severe anxiety.
Yeah.
So when that happened, I can just see it. My whole life just started falling apart bit by bit by bit by bit. She would run out of her medicine early. She ended up losing her job. We ended up losing where we lived. Then we had to move, find somewhere else, get evicted from there, you know, and it was just this cycle. And I remember when we got evicted from the house where we grew up in, my mom took off on us and she's like, good. And this was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. And we were just kids. Like, what are we supposed to do? Mm-hmm. So then I saw that. Oh, well, she takes off every time something bad goes wrong, you know? So we get through that. And I'm 17. I was such a good student in school. I loved school. I loved homework. I just liked bookwork. I liked to read. I was always a good student in school, A and B honor roll. I wasn't like popular. I didn't make the cheerleading team, and I was devastated because I thought for sure. But I wasn't like a nerd either. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I was just whatever. I felt like I didn't know where I belonged. I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere. So at age 17, my mom, I was stealing Xanax out of her purse is how that started. And I loved the way they made me feel. I didn't give 2 craps about nothing. You know, the grass was greener and the lights were brighter. And I wasn't nervous about how I looked. I wasn't nervous about how I talked. I wasn't nervous about what I say. I felt like I could finally be me. You know what I mean? I could finally be outgoing and all of these things that I wish I was and that I am a little bit today. But you know what I mean? Like, I just felt like...
Still maintaining a good grade point average and everything?
Well, no. That's when it all started, just like my mom's life. I started hanging out with the wrong crowd. Started snorting cocaine every weekend. Started skipping school. I was 1 credit away from graduating high school, and I wasn't able to. I had the opportunity to make up what I was missing in summer school, which I totally blew off. Didn't do that either. I lied to all my family up here. I never told them the truth. So I was getting all this money from all my family up here and not saying a word, not saying nothing. And I went and spent it all on drugs. I don't even know if some of them know to this day that was the truth.
They might know.
Well, they might know.
That's right.
What a way to find out, right? So my mom ends up finding out that I'm stealing these pills from her. So instead of sitting me down, you know, like a mother should have and been like, listen, I'm worried about you. Like, do you need help? All of those things. Instead, she taught me what to say to go to the doctor to get my own prescription. Mm-hmm. That way she could have hers. I could have mine. When she runs out, I've got her. And I run out, she's got me. And that's just what we did. Well, it got to the point I was getting prescribed 90 of these Xanax and I'd be out of them in 3 days. Those 3 days, not remember what I was doing, who I was with, you know, those things make you forget. And I've forgotten years of my life because of that.
Wow.
So that's where it started. I got my own prescription. I started immediately abusing them. And I mean, she told me everything to say. And this doctor was like a quack anyways. Mm-hmm. So it just went on like that. We were toxic for each other. You know, when we got around each other, it was always about, how are we going to get more pills? How are we going to get money to get, what are we going to sell, steal? I mean, we did not have that
was the thought process.
Right. Normal mother and daughter relationship. It was more like bad for us. So, I turned 19 and I get pregnant with my first son, Logan. I was not ready to be a mom. The father of Logan, we both had a drug problem, but I didn't use when I was pregnant with him. But afterwards, I got right back on Xanax right after. And when I'm on those, I don't care who I'm hurting, what I'm doing. You know what I mean? My conscience goes away. I don't.
Drugs don't have any friends.
No.
No family.
So I have
Don't
this baby
discriminate.
now, and I want to be out partying still. You know, I'm not ready to be a mom. I wasn't. I wasn't. Well, I bring my son up here to see my dad. You know, I got to meet my son, and that was great. 3 days after I got home from up here visiting my dad, I remember the phone ringing in the middle of the night, and it was my Aunt Monica who lived up here, and she called to tell us that my dad had died. And we're like, no, there's no way. You know, she's talking about my grandpa. Like, we're like not hearing her right. Like, what are you talking about? We were just there. And he had been out drinking on his motorcycle and coming home from a bar in Indianapolis and just weaving in and out of cars. And a 12-year-old boy was driving a tractor, pulling a disc that only had one light on one side working. And so he didn't see it until it was too late, and he tried to stop, and his arm got broke, and then he hit head first on one of those discs. So it was just like, yeah.
Immediate.
Yeah. So I was 20, 21, around there when this happened. And I was sad, you know, I was sad. It was my dad, but we didn't have a relationship. We were just starting to talk to each other more, and, you know, and then he passes away. And so for me, I was so mad at God. You know, I grew up going to church. I wasn't like very religious, but you know, I liked going to church. I believe in God. And so I blamed God. You know, why would you do this? How could you take him away from us? Like, you know, I was just starting to get to know him, like, but it's taken, again, all of these years to see that wasn't God.
Right.
God didn't put my dad on that motorcycle without a helmet after he had been drinking. That was my dad's choice. And when I figured that out, that changed a lot of things for me. You
That's
know?
incredible. And I have gotten mad at God when I got stage 4 cancer.
Yeah.
I told him I hated him.
Yeah.
I mean,
you want someone to blame.
yes.
And then when I realized that was a choice that my dad chose. And then I accepted it. Of course, I was devastated.
Oh,
Yeah.
So I was still out partying on the weekends and all that. My mom was keeping my baby a lot. Well, he would go back and forth between his dad and then where I was living out with my mom. Well, I ended up getting pregnant again by a different guy, and he wasn't so good. We end up bringing our baby home to a hotel room because we had nowhere to go. Mind you, I'm trying to take care of this other baby. So finally, one day, Logan's dad sat me down and he was like, listen, I see what you're going through. You're living at the hotel. Like, let me just keep him until you can get back on your feet. You can still see him, you know, but just, he needs a home. And I agreed. Okay. So I did that. And I saw him every once in a while. And then I got pregnant with Deacon, and I was off with this other guy, and it just kind of became easier and easier every day not to go.
Yeah.
And I hate saying that today because the person I am today is ashamed that I would even do something like that to my child.
That's what they say. It's like when you take one step away from God, it gets easier to take that next step and that next step and that next step. But if you've got that vertical relationship, right, it helps you balance the rest out.
Mm-hmm.
But each step you take away, it's harder
It's
to
so
get
true.
back. But the closer you go to him, the closer you are with him.
Mm-hmm. So I've held on to that my whole life, because I'm ashamed when people ask me how many kids I have. I say 3. I don't say 4. Why don't I? Why isn't he good enough to be a part of this story? And so I want to try to incorporate that more. Like, I have 4 kids.
Yes.
And I was hoping that when he got old enough, he would, you know, look for me. And that hasn't happened. And that's okay. I totally get it. You know what I mean? But I have not reconnected and stayed connected with him because I was never stable enough to.
Yeah.
I didn't want to keep coming in and out of his life, confusing him, all of that. So it was just, he was with amazing family. And he's had things that I could never dream of giving him. But I hope one day he can see,
Me too.
Yeah. the person that I am today. Because the person
Mm-hmm.
I am today, I just don't, it's embarrassing, to be honest,
Right.
that I even did that. So I get pregnant with Deacon. I'm in a bad relationship. This guy's no good. So I end up moving back up here. My grandparents were here, and I wanted to be closer to them. They were getting older. They were a very big part of my life. They were every summer. When I would come up here, we'd go on vacations and all that. That's probably like the best time of my life. I
So
would
that
say.
was a good stable influence.
Always. Yes, always. So I moved back up here. My mom follows not long after. And then that's when we're still going to the doctor and still doing that whole thing. But now it's moved on to meth. And we were both on that together every day, trying to hustle and figure out what we're going to do. Lying, all the lies. It's just, I can't believe it's just, to think about it really, that I kept up with all that. No wonder why I was miserable all the time,
That's why
It's
you're
just
Trying
so
to figure out the
much.
next
Yeah.
line.
Yes, you got to keep up with all of
that.
that. I will never go back to that life. It's horrible.
I'm glad
Horrible.
when people say that.
Yeah, no. So we get on meth, and this is when it kind of all just is a blur to me. DCS gets called, reports that I've neglected my kids and I was on drugs, yada yada. They come to my house, they see track marks on my arms, and they ended up taking my kids. I was devastated. The first time. They even gave me a chance, like, Jessica, if you fail one more time, we're going to take your kids from you. Like, I knew that. And I still chose, knowing that my kids are going to be taken away. I still chose to use. And ultimately, I got my kids taken. And it was horrible. Like, our kids are not enough to stop this.
Right.
The love for our children is not enough.
Craig said the same thing when he was doing it. Wasn't enough.
No, never. So I jump through all the hoops. I get my kids back. I go to treatment for the first time. It was great. Terror Treatment Center. I was there for 30 days. I came out and started going to church at Lifeline Wesleyan Church in Greensburg. I started going to Celebrate Recovery there every Friday night. I stayed sober because of Celebrate Recovery. For 8 months, I stayed sober. Just going there every Friday night. In church, I was really into all of it. I started working for my church, cleaning the bathrooms and stuff like that. I ended up going on a mission trip to Haiti where we built, helped build some churches for some people down there. I mean, amazing. All of these things.
Yes.
I was using.
So you started using before you left the church.
Yeah, I was high the whole time. Cleaning the church, not going to Haiti because you couldn't, of course, bring anything with you. But yeah, so I had been sober 8 months, so proud of myself, going to Celebrate Recovery. And all it took was I looked over at the gas station and there sat my best girlfriend who was also. And I made it halfway home before I turned around and I went back. And that was all it took. Here I am
People,
again.
places and things.
So true. I would leave for days, weeks, months. I wouldn't tell nobody where I was going. I wouldn't call. My kids would make missing posters of me, put them all over Facebook. I had to stay high the whole time because if not, the minute I started coming down, I felt the guilt and the shame of what are you doing? You know better than this. Take your butt home. But no, I just keep getting high, and stay gone.
To forget about it.
And then eventually I come home. And every single time my husband let me come back. Every single time he opened that door for me and let me come back. Yeah.
Enabled.
Was it? Do you think it was a navel, or was it
I definitely
a genuine
think-
love to help?
I want to say both.
Okay.
I want to say both. I want to say both.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
So just plays it out
Hey,
there.
it's,
She was looking at me. I had no choice.
Yeah. So let me back up. So I ended up getting married to a man that I had known my whole life, not really knowing that I had known him. He used to play with my cousin on a baseball team here at the same school that my kids go to. And I would go and watch them during the summertime when I'd be up here with my grandparents. And so I knew him from then. When I got married, he already had a son from his first relationship. And I treated him like he was my own. You know, I loved him. Fast forward a little bit, high school, you know, my son Deacon was born with autism. He was diagnosed when he was in 3rd grade. He's high functioning Asperger's. So you wouldn't know unless I told you. I mean, maybe if you really knew what you were talking, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like you
you
have
really
to
know.
really pay
I know,
attention. Yeah. So, so through high school, I'm watching my son who has autism and my stepson grow up. They're right a grade behind each other, a year apart, you know. My stepson's going to prom and he's got all these friends and he's getting his driver's license and all of the things that my son's not.
Hmm.
He didn't go to prom. I didn't get to see him in his tux. Not because I didn't want him to, but because he had no desire to do that. And those are the things that I wanted to do with him. Selfish me. You know, those are the things that I thought he should have done.
Yeah.
So when I see my stepson, he's got all this family, all this attention, all these gifts people buying him, gifts my son has no one. I started resenting my stepson. And it started to show in our relationship very badly. I was jealous of a child because I wanted his life to be my son's life.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. And it wasn't. And I had to come to terms with that. Thank God for my last son because he's coming right up in there wanting to do it all, you know,
Yeah.
which I'm glad for that. But it drove a wedge in between us.
Yeah.
And I allowed it to happen.
Yeah.
You know, at no fault of his. He was just trying to grow up.
Yeah.
You know, it was me. So I go to treatment again for the second time. This is probably like 2016 now. I've already been to Haiti. Treatment a second time. Get out. Right back to the same thing. You know, I think DCS is taking my kids now again. So I would get out and do good for a little bit and then it would be right back to the same thing. I was hanging out with the wrong people, of course. Still getting my prescription. My mom, it was just for years, this was my life. I don't remember a lot of important things in my life, like my kids' first words or, you know, when they took their first steps. I just don't, you know, it's my drug use has taken years from my life for real that I cannot remember. So I had just been out at my mom's house and I'd given her Mother's Day gifts and all that stuff. She was so happy. Got like a candle, you know, a purse and all that fun stuff. And we had plans to hang out the next morning. I got my kids on the bus at like 7:30 and then I would go pick her up and we'd just hang out all day or I'd hang out at her house or whatever. So that morning I get my kids on the bus and I call her and she didn't answer, which was weird. You know, she usually is waiting for me to come. And I just kept calling and she never answered. And, I would say probably the 5th time I called and she didn't answer, I knew something was wrong. I didn't go out there. I didn't send anybody out there. I knew deep down there was something, but I was hoping there wasn't. Like maybe her phone, you know, like all the things you can think of. All of the things. She probably fell back asleep, yada, yada. But I knew that if I went out there, what I was going to see. And I didn't want to see that. So that whole day I just kept trying to call her. And then eventually her boyfriend came home and found her. The cops came to my house a little bit later on in the evening and told me that my mom had passed away. She actually had overdosed on the drugs that I brought her the day before. So I have had to deal with all that guilt and shame. You know, what if I didn't do that? What if all the shoulda, woulda, couldas, the what ifs,
It doesn't bring her back.
right. And I have to remember that if I didn't bring it to her, she was going to get it from somewhere.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So I lost my mind after that. It was really bad. It was really, really bad. I felt like I had killed my mother. You know, deep down, I was mad at myself.
Right.
And it took a long time for me to be okay with that. I've done a pretty good job, I feel like, at forgiving myself. I'm not as hard on myself as I used to be about it, but it still
it's
bothers
there.
me. Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
I mean, when you think about it, I mean, I still feel guilty for, in high school being rude to somebody, because the devil wants that guilt. Because the more we can feel guilty, the more we can feel like we don't deserve, or we're ashamed or shameful or not or something. He can use that against us.
To turn us away
Right.
from God and keep us from
Right.
giving Him glory.
Yep. So, I mean, those were just months of my life that I just don't even know how I made it through it. I don't know
I don't know
how.
how I would have made it through.
Yeah. I mean, we talked every day. I saw her every day. Like, we were the best friends. But that was the problem as well. You know, she was my friend instead of my mom. And I didn't need that. I needed a mom. You know.
Somebody say it's not okay to steal.
Right.
Medicine.
Right.
It's
Not
okay to keep getting.
right. Not someone to encourage it.
Did this make you want to do more drugs, or did it make you?
It made me, yes.
It sent you over
Yeah.
the top.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is going to sound bad, but I'm going to say it because this is how I felt. At the time, I was relieved that, because I knew one day something was going to happen. I just knew it. I just knew it. And finally, it's like, I don't have to worry about her anymore. One less thing I have, because I worry about everything. And for me, that was just, she's not suffering anymore. That's one less thing that I have to worry about. I know where she's at,
Yeah.
Did I miss her? Of course. Do I still
Yeah.
miss her? Of course. Yes. But you
That's
just got to move
a weight off
on.
your shoulders.
Yeah. So, a year later in 2018, my brother, who was still living in Florida, I had not seen him in 8 years. So my husband surprised me and flew him back up to Indiana. This is where he's from as well. Flew him back up here, and we got to see each other again after 8 years. It was great. He was also an addict. Both my brothers are. Drinking is mostly their thing, but so he was here, and at the time, my husband, his grandpa had passed away, so they had all these buildings that were like stacked full of like antique stuff, and they would go like pickers, antique,
American Pickers.
There you go.
Yeah.
It'd be like that. They would go in there and find stuff.
Oh, my husband would love that.
Yeah, it was fun. So they went and they found this old rusty gun. I mean, like, looking at it, it would never fire, right? Like, that's how bad of shape it looked. So my brother, he loved guns. He always had loved guns. He had tattoos all over him. He had guns all over him. He took it. He brought it home with him. Well, I didn't know that before they came home, they had also stopped at another store that had bullets in this store that my brother stole. We ended up watching the video later on, and he just flat out stole them right in the middle of the store. And mind you, we had been drinking since 10 a.m., shots of vodka since 10 a.m.
Mm.
And when my
It
brother,
wasn't getting any better.
No.
With it.
when my brother drank, he turned into someone else. Like, his eyes got black. It was just the weirdest thing. He just turned into like not someone nice. So he's got this gun and he's got these bullets, and he just keeps having this gun out while we're at home, and I'm like, what are you like? No, like, do something with that. Like, at that time, I didn't even think that it would fire or do anything.
Right.
So, my brother and I had just gotten into an argument because he was just so rude and disrespectful to me. And I was like, I'm buying you a plane ticket back to Florida. I'm over you being here, because all it was drinking every day. And then it was just, and I was trying to stay clean because DCS was involved in my life at that time too.
Oh.
So having him there did not help at all. So we had just gotten into this fight. My husband's cooking dinner, spaghetti on the stove. You know, my kids are in the kitchen. I'm in the laundry room. And I hear this gun go off.
Mm.
And I'm like, he's shooting in my house. So I kind of peek my head around the thing. And my brother's laying on the ground. And I'm like, you guys quit. Come on, get up. Like this, it's not funny.
When you thought it was
Yeah.
a joke.
And my husband keeps going, oh, brother just shot himself. Your brother just shot himself. And I'm like, what? Like, you don't process it in that moment, like the severity of the situation, right?
And what did he do? Just flesh wound? Yeah.
So I wouldn't go up to him. I just kept back and I just kept looking at him. And he was breathing. You could see him, you know? And I'm like, whatever. And then, you know, you slowly start to see it stop moving. And so then I'm like, this is really happening.
Right.
So the front door, that was the way out. And you had to go by him, over him to get out. And I wasn't doing that. So I turned and went the other way, opened a window and was going to jump out the window. Then I'm like, you can't do that, Jessica. You got to help him. Like, what if you can help him? You know? So I go back in there, put his head on my lap, you know, on the phone with 911, trying to give him CPR, chest compress, like all the things. And the paramedics get there and they're like, ma'am, you know, we need you to, and I'm like, I'm not leaving him. And he's like, we need you to leave or we're going to make you leave. So I leave, I go outside and they take him out. They couldn't air care that day because it was so windy. They say when he left my house, he had a heartbeat still, but they pronounced him dead at the hospital. So, you know, so then it's just more of a, woe is me. Look what happened to me. My whole family is dead.
Mm.
No wonder why I want to go use drugs. Wouldn't you? I mean, isn't that what you would do? Right?
Make
Use an
excuses.
excuse.
Absolutely.
So you went and got it.
Yes.
Okay.
People felt sorry for me. Oh, you could have the, or, you know, whatever. I use that. I'm not even going to lie to you. I use that justification and that excuse from when my dad passed away, even back then. You know, it's a reason.
It's a routine that worked too.
Right. It worked. I didn't want to think about all that. So here at this point, you know, I've literally lost everybody in my family in some traumatic way, you know, and now I've just lost my brother. So he was cremated here and I flew him back home to Florida. I was only supposed to stay 4 days for the funeral. I stayed 4 months. I just never came back. My cousin lived down there, you know, that's where I went to high school. I had people that I went to school with that were down there. And so I just stayed. I stayed messed up on drugs the whole time. And anytime I got a little inkling of feeling sad and missing my kids, I would just get high. And that's just how I lived for 4 months every day. Just crazy. I ended up getting arrested down there for possession of meth. I ended up getting bonded out and supposed to go back for a court date, which I never did. So when I was in jail here, when I finally got in trouble and went to jail, my husband went and paid $14,000 bond to get me out for them to say, oh, sorry, you have a hold for Florida and they're coming to get you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I didn't really get in trouble really until my mom passed away. And I got a battery charge against my husband. I hit him in the head with a pan on the stove. Well, apparently it doesn't matter the reason, and you still can't do that, you know. So
I was on to hit my husband with a pan.
I was on
You there.
misdemeanor probation.
Okay.
Right? Misdemeanor probation. They really didn't mess with me. I really didn't have to go to the courthouse for a lot, you know. So I had just went to court and they had just told me, like, if you do good, we'll let you off early and you can, you'll get 6 months off if you do everything you're supposed to. The very next day, I get a home visit. They never come to my home. I was on misdemeanor probation. They really don't come to your house a lot when you're on that, you know. So they go to give me a drug screen. And at this point, I'm so high off my anxiety medicine. It went from Xanax to now I was on Klonopin. which is this, it does the same thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, what's going to happen if I don't pass it? And they were like, well, what are you going to fail for? So finally I failed for methamphetamine. That gave them permission to search my room. In my purse, in my room, I had a little baggie of meth. It was $20 worth. And in my messed up mind, I thought that if I could get to that purse before Joe Mann, that I could get it out of my room, give it to my son, and he could run outside with it. So I go in front of Joe Mann, and I go to grab that purse, and he says, you better drop that purse. And I just kept trying to get it. And finally and that's when they handcuffed me and put me on the couch. But that was my thinking. Like, I'm going to give drugs to my kid to take outside so I don't get in trouble. But at the time, that was a good reason, I thought,
Pretty sure Joe Mann didn't agree.
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, I was so messed up on these pills. Like when he told me, like, you're going to jail. Let's pick out some clothes, some grays and some whites for you. And I was just like,
What am I doing?
what? And like, he had to help me. Like, that's how bad I was just out of my mind. It was really bad. So I go to jail and that's when I get bonded out for $14,000. I have a holder in Florida. I'm like, Florida is not going to waste their time coming up here and getting me. Oh, you betcha they did. Absolutely they did. Oh yeah. An extradition van came and picked me up from Ripley County Jail. It took us 10 days to get from here to Florida. 10 days. Because we have to stop at all these other jails, drop people off, pick people up. We had to stop and use the bathroom. I was shackled around my waist.
No, thank you.
When I would use the bathroom, they would let me have one hand out. I was treated like a prisoner.
Yeah.
Degrading. Some of these places that I had to stop and use the bathroom at. I mean, I just remember looking around and there would be like, in New Orleans, we stopped and there was just like feces all over the toilets and flies. And I'm just like, this is not the life for me. I don't want this anymore. And I was terrified. It was horrible. I'm not kidding you. Those 10 days of my life were probably some of the worst ever. So I finally get to Florida. I'm in jail down there. I end up getting a bond. My husband flies him and my son down there to get me. They get me, bring me back home. But I still had this charge from when I got in trouble. I still had this meth charge. I had to go to my sentencing hearing. And I got a paid lawyer, thought I was going to walk away with a slap on the wrist. It was my first felony, my first drug charge, All I had before was that battery. And that's just not the way it happened. It's just not the way it happened. I was charged with possession of methamphetamine, 5 grams or less, which is an F6. But because my son was there, it enhanced it to a level 5 because it was in the presence of a child. There were also guns in the home, but that ended up getting dismissed because they weren't mine. So I signed a plea for 5 years. Serve 4, suspend 1 to probation. And I remember sitting at the lawyer's office by myself, crying. Like, what do you mean? 5 years? I was thinking 5 months. Now you're telling me that I'm going to have to be away from my family for 5 years. They're never going to wait on me. They're never, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
They're going to forget about me. And I was like, can't you do any better? He's like, this is it. They're not doing it because you tried to give your son the purse with the drugs in it. That was the main thing. That's what it all boiled down to, that I did that I was willing to do that to save my own butt. And I did do that. I did. So I signed the plea for 5 years, suspend 1 to probation, serve 4.
Time and a half, or is that 4 complete years?
No. So I was to serve 4, but I only did 2 and got out. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe, because when I was using, my biggest thing was I'm terrified to go to prison. Like that's one thing I never wanted to have to do, because you watch all those horror shows and they slash your face, like all these things. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Bully you.
Yeah, like
Everything.
girls
And
are mean.
You just put up 14,000 not to have.
Yes.
Yeah. Just
Yes.
amazing.
Yes.
I mean, I think about it sometimes, and I get terrified. Like,
And you can't get out of it.
yeah,
There's no.
I will say,
stripping,
like,
squatting, search.
when
Yes.
we were supposed to come to the jail for the first time, like those are the things that played in your head. Like, I'm gonna go in, this is gonna happen,
Yeah.
and then I'm gonna see all this craziness.
It's scary.
And it's like, but then when we got there, it was like, this is nothing like
Yeah,
that.
I
I mean,
know.
granted, we're not in the back, but
Right.
it still wasn't how they portray.
Right.
Or
Visitors
prison.
either.
Right.
I'm sure prison is different than county.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. So,
I've heard both good and bad too.
yeah, I waited I think it was a couple of months, maybe a month or so before I rode out. It was me and,
County.
yeah, at Ripley County. It was me and this other girl, and I never forget it. She had already been to prison like a few times, so she knew what was going on. So I made sure to stick by her, and in intake, she kind of kept an eye on me, and I kind of stayed by her, because I mean,
You don't know what you're doing.
yeah, it's scary, right?
Yeah.
Then you can't use the phone for all those days that you first get there, and it's like by the time you get to use the phone, your family's like, where have you been? And I'm like, this is just how it is. And so I was in intake, and it was horrible, absolutely horrible. I starved to death. I felt like I was hungry all the time. You couldn't order commissary, so you just ate what they gave you, and it was just not a good time. So then I finally get to Madison.
Now is intake the same as it is now? Is it at the same
Rockville?
place?
Yes, I'm assuming. Yes, yeah. I guess it wasn't too bad, but you had to walk to the chow hall, and I was there
I
when it
heard
was
it was a
snowing.
trek, yeah.
It's
Rain,
far. Yeah.
Snow, doesn't matter.
No, does not matter. Does not matter. So I get to Madison, and still in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I bet you that I can talk my way out of this. Like, somebody is going to listen to me, and I'm going to, you know what I mean? Like, there's no way that I'm going to serve this much in prison. There's no way. There's no way. I'm never going to survive it.
Right.
Never. And I remember being on the phone one night with my son, and he was like, Mom, why can't Dad just come bail you out? Because that's what it had always been before.
Right.
And I would just get out. Well, and I remember in that moment when I hung up that phone, I thought to myself, you ain't getting out of this. There's no manipulating. There's no doing I mean, you're stuck here. You are stuck here, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Is this a turning point?
Yes.
Okay.
I feel like that's when my mindset started to change, because instead of, having a pity party for myself, I was like, I'm going to do everything I can in this time that I have to get out of here and to learn all I can. Why? I have to be here anyways. I want to take advantage of all of it. So I got involved in all of it, church, classes. Well, then COVID hit, and all of that got shut down. We weren't allowed to do groups. We weren't allowed to be around anybody else. So that was rough. We were quarantined to our room a lot of the time when I was in prison. And that really stinks, because I didn't get the full, programming that they offer, because it ended up being just like packets, because we couldn't meet with anybody. I couldn't see my family. They shut down all those visits, the in-person visits, because,
Wow.
but I could see them over the video, which we did
Well,
that.
at least
Yeah. Towards the end, when I was there, was when they finally could be able to start coming back up there in person to see you, which was really cool. They did that a couple times. It's definitely a bad feeling when you're standing there in the gate and you're watching your loved ones drive away and you can't go with them. It's just, I miss birthdays and my kids getting their driver's license. All those things I had to hear about over the phone.
Time doesn't stand still.
No.
My husband talks about that all the time. He's like, the world's going by. And
Yes.
He was in on 9/11. He was in jail on 9/11.
Yeah.
Happened, and he said that was a terrifying feeling. That
yeah.
You're stuck here, and you don't know if something,
Yeah.
you don't get the news. You don't know if something else is going to happen.
It's terrifying for
Yeah.
sure. But once you get like in a routine in there, like you have a job, you have to be up by this time and dress, and you have classes and all these things, it just becomes, you just make your own life for yourself in there, if that makes sense. Like you have this outside life, that it hurts when you talk to the people, it makes you sad. So finally I had to be like, I can't call home every night. I'm going to call home like once a week unless something big happens.
Yeah.
Because for my mental health, it was not good. I had to distance myself away from the real world and create my own new world in in prison. Yeah. And that's how I lived. And the next thing you know, 2 years have went by. I left my kids as boys and I come home and they're men. And it's just wild. It's just wild. I was able to come home early on CTP, which that means I was on house arrest for 3 months and then I had a year's probation. So I get through the house arrest and all of that. I never failed a drug screen or anything like that. I took everything I had to do very serious because I did not want to go back to prison. Yeah. Like still to this day, I have nightmares of going back there. It really gives you like post-traumatic stress, something about it, because it really messes with your mind. I really feel that. I really do. So I get done with all of that and I start coming to peer-to-peer. Well, Josh Wilson was running it at that time. And I remember being terrified. I sat over in the corner, the closest to where I could get out faster. I wouldn't even walk my paper up there. I would pass it because I was too nervous to walk up there to get my paper signed. So I start going to there and, I never missed. I never missed a Friday. I got out of prison on a Thursday. Jenny told me I had to be at peer-to-peer the very next night.
Jenny was your probation?
Jenny. And I remember thinking in my head, there's no way. I got to get out of this. I don't want to go. And I'm like, I can't. I just got out of prison. And I don't want to have to do that the very next day. And she said, you're doing it.
Okay.
And so I did it. And I'm grateful for that moment because if she wouldn't have done that, I wouldn't have went.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have went. And if I wouldn't have went, then what?
You keep back home.
Right. So I kept coming. You meet all these people. You see a community that's striving for the same thing that you want in life. And we're all doing it our own crazy way. And we just all come together and it just works. Yes. So when I came in the picture, Josh Wilson was already trying to get out because he had already dedicated, 10 years of his life to peer-to-peer and, all the phone calls of people, all of that. He dealt with that for so long. And then when I came, I got asked to speak to the kids at RCATS. And I went down there and did that and I fell in love with it. I just wanted to be with the kids. I wanted to help these kids because I could see my own kids in these kids, the hurt and the pain, and I know what they've been through. And so I went to Shannon one day and I was like, I want to get a job here. And he was like, well, we've never had anybody ask, to get a job here where you sent to prison.
I listened to your story and I'm like, how did you get a job?
Yeah. So when I was in CADS, a part of CADS was in phase 3, a lady from Work One would come and give you resources about employment and all of those things. Well, she told me that she could get me enrolled in, I was going to first do my CNA license, right? I got all the way up to, got the TB test. I mean, all the things you have to do. The day before she calls me and she's like, it hasn't been 5 years since you were convicted of your felony. You can't be a CNA.
Oh.
And I was devastated because I was going to work in a nursing home. It was just going to be great. And I was just going to make a career out of that.
I had a couple of ladies that they've fallen into that.
Yeah.
They got everything and then
it's devastating. Yeah. So she's like, but wait, I have this training, peer recovery coach training. And I'm like, I really don't, Then I'm like, okay. So she ends up getting me signed up for this training. I never paid one dime. When I went to Shannon, I said, I want to have a job. He's like, okay, we'll get you a job with the kids. Originally, it was supposed to be me down at RCATS helping with the kids that come to RCATS every day. Okay. How it turned into what it is now, I have no idea. It just kind of, the longer I was there.
When did you realize that this is what I was called to do?
Let me tell you, it's wild to now have a key fob that lets you into the probation department. Not only that, you have a key to the Ripley County Courthouse. Like, who would have thought? Who would have thought that? So Shannon trusted me, and thank God for him. He gave me a chance. He didn't have to, but he gave me a chance. And so originally what it was Work One hired me and paid me through Work One to work until I was off of probation because Ripley County did not want an employee that was still on probation, which I get that. Okay. So I get off probation, and then One Voice comes in the picture, right?
Yeah.
Shannon wanted to collaborate with more different resources and organizations throughout our community. So that's where One Voice comes in. So technically, I am an employee of One Voice,
Okay.
but I just work in Ripley County at the courthouse in probation.
That is amazing.
Yeah. So after Work One finished paying me, I was done with them, and then I started doing what I'm doing now. You know, I was terrified of running peer to peer by myself. I always wanted someone else to talk for me, and I would just, you know, do the announcements and whatever, because I just was nervous all the time. Like, it made me want to go back to taking nerve pills, to be honest, because I felt like I didn't feel that way when I was on nerve pills, you know?
Yeah.
You got used to not feeling that, so then it was.
And that definitely had to get you out of your comfort zone.
Oh, yeah. I didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
You know, now these people are made to come here to listen to me. What am I going to say?
Yeah.
You know, what am I going to? So, I mean, you know, I have my own office. It's just unreal. It's unreal, the things that I have been able to accomplish since I've been home from prison. It's been, I got home in December of 2021, and I started working, doing what I'm doing now in 22.
Wow.
So it's been it'll be 4 years
Wow.
coming up in January of the next year that I've been at the courthouse.
And I honestly, when I met you, I would have thought you been there 20 years.
Yeah.
I didn't know your story when I met you. You know, I remember when I went in to meet you, my husband sent me over and I was nervous, but you look at me and you're like, are you sure you're going to go into the jail? And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure, you know. I wasn't sure, but I didn't want to let you know that, you know.
We got the good
Yeah, yeah, you put on the good front.
I've been on the good front, yeah, you know. But I wouldn't have known the difference. I'm amazed. I mean, you amaze me. Love going to peer, and I personally would never go to that unless I was made, because I was quiet.
Right.
But you know, when one of the ladies that we become our best friends with now, you know, she was required and she wanted some, you know, posse.
Support.
Like,
And she also
Yeah.
didn't have a
Yep.
vehicle.
Oh,
when
yeah,
we
that's
first
right.
started.
Yeah.
Yes.
We had-
We were
Yes.
we
Forgot
were
about
providing
that.
chauffeurs to
it's been so
Yes.
several
long.
different ones.
Love it now though. I
That's-
love the camaraderie that everyone has there, you know, and they're there for each other.
Yes.
The ones that are serious, like and most everybody is.
Oh, yeah. I would like to think so, yeah. One of the biggest things I think that impacts the person I am today is being able to go back to the jail and go inside the jail where I once was an inmate at the jail. It still does not feel real to me when I go in there. Because I know how quickly I can be that person sitting across from me in
Yeah.
blues, you know? All it takes is one wrong decision,
Yep.
one wrong move, one wrong word to somebody. I mean, that's all it takes. And
And
so
that works both ways for the inmate and for us. We're all one, in the words of Mark Patterson, we're all one decision away from a totally different life.
it's
So
so
it
true.
can work
Yeah.
either way.
It's so true. I don't really hang out with anybody. You know, I go to my meetings, and that it's just, you have to find what works for you.
Yeah.
You know, what works for me isn't going to work for you guys. I mean, you just never know, but whatever works, stick with it. Right. Because that's ultimately what's going to take you all the way.
Absolutely.
You know, I don't put myself in high risk situations. I don't go to
I would.
the bar. I just don't. And I'm happy because people are like, oh, don't you get so bored? Your life must be so boring. No, I go home, I piddle around. I just do what I want. I can do what I want, not having to be told when I can do something. You know, my freedom is one thing that I definitely took for granted, for sure. And now I will never do anything that's going to ever put me back where I feel any of that, because I can't imagine what it's like to go back to jail right now where I'm at in my life.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Do you have time for a couple questions, quick questions maybe? Or
Yeah.
Okay. These are just some things that I thought of, and I hadn't heard your story before, but wow. I'm glad that you came and shared, because there's so many people out there.
Mhm.
They need to know there's a way out.
Mhm. Yeah.
But compared to how you used to deal with grief when you were using, and that was your way of dealing, when you still confront the same problems
Mhm.
today, what do you do to deal with that grief that doesn't take you back to that
Mhm.
place?
I can tell you the unhealthy way that I do it. So my grandma just passed away, you guys know, a few months ago. And I still haven't been able to drive by her house or go to the cemetery. You know, I'm very good at blocking things out. I can block it out, and once it's out, I can keep it out unless, you know, people are talking about it or I see it or I'm anywhere around it. So what I really do is I block it out, which is not healthy. What I wish I could do, and I feel like I'm getting better at it as time goes on, I try not to be sad. I don't try to be sad because, you know, these things happened. Like I tell my only living surviving family member, my brother, he lives in Greensburg, you know, we have a relationship. I tell him, like, you know, we've lost all these people, like, so bad. But yes, it sucked. And yes, of course I miss them. But it happened and I can't change that. And so now I just have to move forward. I just have to keep moving forward.
Don't look in that rearview mirror.
No. When my mom passed away, I was embarrassed to say that she overdosed. You know, for the longest time, I said she had a heart attack, which is part of what happened, but it's not the whole truth, right? Because I didn't want people to think any kind of way. But now it's like, I can use this. I can use this as a voice for someone else that can't speak, you know, that have been through these same things and are scared to come out and say something. Like, I get it. When I tell people, when I meet with them, like, I understand, like, I really understand how it feels.
I love what you posted before on your Facebook page. Like, you recover out loud.
Yeah.
And you encourage everyone. You know, help somebody else recover.
Yep.
I love that. I mean, that's one of the things that my husband does. He always wanted to get back, you know, go into the jails because he was in jail. You know, go into the prison and he was in the prison.
Yep. Well, it's so different when you've been there, you know, it's just so different. Yeah. It's just, it's a blessing for sure. And sometimes I tell those girls, you guys help me more than, you know, I'm coming in here helping you.
They are such a blessing.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
I'll pin on that. Sometimes cliche things that addicts often brush off, like get to meetings, open up, talk it out, change your people, places, and things. And I could go on and on with the different things that we say. But how important are those things to recovery?
Every one of those things on that list is very, very important. Very, very important. I remember hearing all those things and I'd be like, oh, that's what they always say. Meeting makers make it. Come back. You know, it works if you work it. All those things. But it's so true. It's so true. If you really want to make it, you have to want to, number one. And number two, you have to be willing to cut ties. At least for right now, set boundaries with the people in your life that aren't good for you. You know, you have to get to a place where you're finally happy with yourself and you can be happy with other people, even though they don't do the things that you think they should, you know, because my expectations of people are always way higher than and I'm constantly being disappointed, you know, so I've got to lower my expectations a little bit. But I just want to say that the girls are lucky to have you guys. I didn't even realize, like, when you guys came, what all you brought with you guys. You know what I mean?
We didn't realize it either. It just sort
it's
of
amazing.
We fell into it.
Yeah.
And then we realized that we love helping. Like, all my life, I've wasted all this time when I could have been helping somebody.
When we first got in there, you know, there was, I don't remember what the conversation was. Oh, I do know what it was. Two of the ladies that had gotten arrested, it was the first cases that we had seen where their kids had been taken. And they were very broken. And seeing the one step up and try to comfort the other, I don't want to compare hardships because it is when you're living it. But you realize you're just barely scratching the surface. But once we made that connection, we started just telling them how worthy they were of love, that they were loved very much by us and by God.
Not judged.
But they were very much worthy of that love as well. And if they have a heartbeat, they still have a purpose. And that, I think, is when we started seeing some of the changes.
So much potential sitting in those rooms.
Oh, it's amazing.
Oh, my goodness.
Some of the best people I've ever met was in prison or jail, or so talented. I mean, it's unreal. It's unreal. Yeah.
Yes. And it's almost 6, so I'm not going to keep you, but we want to have you back.
Okay.
I still got a whole list of questions for you.
Yep, I'll come back.
And learn about everything that you do. But I do want to thank you for coming.
Yeah, absolutely.
And being on and being so open and honest because I know you told me that you're an open book.
Yep.
And I'm sure it's hard. You know, sometimes I remember when we first started coming to Hope Baptist, and they were asking for testimonies, and Greg's like, and I see the look on his face, you know, and he's like, he knows he needs to go up there and tell them, but he's so afraid that everybody in the church, because we had just got here,
Yeah.
you know, we come in September, and this was a watch night party or something, and so he's sitting there and he's rocking, you know, and I'm like, just go do it, you know, and he didn't give everything, but he's you know plowed the word, you know, laid a few timbers down, and told him a little bit, you know, that he'd been in jail, and then you know that he had been hooked on drugs, and he was so scared that everybody was going to think less of him.
Mm-hmm.
And so many people come up to him after that night and said, thank you for sharing. Thank you. But we've got this problem. We've got this son. We had this problem with me too. And we, you know, just lucky enough not to have got arrested.
Yes. Right.
But
we all are going through something, whether we're open about it, whether or not, you know, but when you finally find that family and those people that you finally belong to, and you just feel like welcome in your home. And that's how I feel when I go to peer-to-peer. So thank you guys so much for having me. I can't wait to come back.
What do you get? Oh,
Like and subscribe.
Yeah. Please give us a like and hit that subscribe button for us.
And thank you again, Jess. I know you said you wanted any chance you could to tell your story, and we really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
Yes,
If you have any
absolutely.
questions for Jess, you can send us an email at letgoofthepen@gmail.com, or you can leave us a comment. And as always, remember, let go of the pen and let God write your story.
Have a good day.